concerns of the common man. And Mr. Speaker, we who are in this government, in this administration, we have gone away from making promises and to implementation. And Mr. Speaker, some people out there have been arguing that we are talking too much and we are not doing much. But Mr. Speaker, those people are not here right now to listen to the structural legal framework that we are putting so that we can support actual reforms. Why I say this, Mr. Speaker, it is a common thread in the UDA Kenya Kwanza administration that we are not just talking. When we say we want to take this country to a different level, Mr. Speaker, we are saying that it is not just political statements, but we want to convert actual political statements into real tangible legal frameworks that will produce the eventual product that we desire, which is to help the common mwananchi. Mr. Speaker, if you look at what we did with the universal health coverage, it was first of all like a dream that people out there used to think it will not happen. How do you reform NHIF? How do you make it possible to save someone who has a chronic disease and he goes to a level 5 hospital, level 6 hospital and gets treatment for nothing? Mr. Speaker, we have done it. How do you do it in an emergency situation? Mr. Speaker, we have done it. And how did we do it? We used intellectual capacity, the thinking capacity within the Kenya Kwanza administration, Mr. Speaker, to put in not only policy, but the legal framework that will address the issues that are confronting the local person and to make those issues solved with a permanency that will be able to help this country move forward. Mr. Speaker, even after President William Ruto leaves the office of the president, we will still have the 4 laws that have assured that Kenyan people have digital health, Mr. Speaker. They have a new authority that ensures they get free access to medical health. They have health promoters. Mr. Speaker, we have left a legacy of change. And this change, Mr. Speaker, we put the legal framework. So, Mr. Speaker, in this agricultural sector, we said that we needed to make sure that the local person, the grower, is going to be enriched by the labor of his work. And Mr. Speaker, this bill is part of the plan. Because, Mr. Speaker, the local person, as the chairman of this committee while moving this bill said, he does not get the full benefit of the labor that they put in, Mr. Speaker. And the Kenyans listening to me, I urge you to understand one thing. It is not enough to come with a budget that says 2 billion Kenya shillings has been granted, has been given to write off the loans of coffee farmers. And then people would clap for such a president. And they would say he's doing something. He's doing nothing, Mr. Speaker. Without structural change, without policy change, without change of the legal framework, we would have gone to the same old ways of doing things. That farmers are exploited, farmers are taking loans, farmers are not able to pay, and then the government comes, and because of populism, Mr. Speaker, without applying mind, without applying the English thinking on issues, Mr. Speaker, we just say, let us write off those debts. And then next year, the burden goes back again. And Mr. Speaker, we used to ask ourselves, from those of us from other regions, we grow coconut, why don't we get 2 billion write-offs? We grow mangoes, why don't we get 2 billion write-off? Is it because the president doesn't come from our place? Mr. Speaker, it was because of, let me use the word, lack of wisdom or foolishness, Mr. Speaker, blunt foolishness, Mr. Speaker, in approach to policy issues. When the farmer is having a problem of middlemen, the solution cannot be that the government or the president of the day, because he comes from that area, he would give a grant or wipe off the debt using the public funds. Mr. Speaker, that was a very backward approach. What our former presidents were doing was the wrong way to do this thing. Now, juxtapose that against what we are doing now. Juxtapose that cheap way of doing things that creates a bad feeling amongst all Kenyans. Juxtapose that approach with this approach. That, Mr. Speaker, we are creating a legal framework. And what does this legal framework say? Mr. Speaker, the proposed Article 27 of this Coffee Bill 2013, it says the holder of a coffee buyer's license or an entity associated with a holder of the license shall not carry on the business of a commercial miller, broker, roaster, agent, or a warehouse operator. Mr. Speaker, we are trying to cut off middlemen, Mr. Speaker. We are trying to remove the people who used to make the ordinary coffee farmer suffer. And we are not doing it through some roadside declaration, through budgetary intervention, which will not solve the problem. But, Mr. Speaker, we are putting a legal framework. We are saying in this proposed law that if you are a buyer, you cannot also go back all the way down the value chain, Mr. Speaker. So that then the problem that the common farmer was having, that he does not know the price he was going to sell his coffee beans, Mr. Speaker, it is now solved. Because that buyer cannot be going down all the way to do the other work that, Mr. Speaker, the grower would be doing. Mr. Speaker, the same section, which is a crucial section, Mr. Speaker, proposed section 27, it says in sub-article 11 that a holder of a commercial miller's license or any other entity associated with such a holder shall not carry on the business of a buyer, broker, roaster, or agent. Which means, Mr. Speaker, the miller now of coffee beans cannot be on the other side of the value chain production. Mr. Speaker, what has it done? It has removed that idea that people used to create companies. There would be the same people who are buying. There will be the same people who are milling. There will be the same people who are agents. There will be the same people who are brokers. So the farmer is approached by a person who tells him, this coffee from this factory, this coffee from this factory, we are buying at this price. The farmer has no way of fighting back. The price is determined. The price is given by what this guy thinks, because he is the same person. He is the same miller. He is the same person who is an agent. He is the same person who is a broker. He is the same person who is also the buyer. Mr. Speaker, I really congratulate the Senate Agriculture Committee because they have thought through this bill and thought through it very well. Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy that they have made it clear that this bill is emancipating coffee from the hands of AFA. AFA was a body that was being used to kill the coffee industry, Mr. Speaker. AFA was not assisting coffee in any way. They made it very difficult. And even when the coffee reforms were being spearheaded by the Deputy President, AFA was still, through its agents or servants or its employees, trying to make it difficult so that these reforms don't find it into legislation, Mr. Speaker. I am happy that we as a Senate are actually participating in helping the common farmer remove these go-betweens, these brokers, these people who have been milking the farmer. The farmer will now be able to get at least some of the benefit of the labors that they have been putting. Mr. Speaker, it is a shame that a farmer can sell 1 kilogram, 100 shillings, and he goes to the shop and finds 1 kilogram, 600 shillings. Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy to support what this bill is proposing. Mr. Speaker, so that Kenyans can understand what we are doing here, Mr. Speaker, there was a proposal in this bill that farmers will now be able to sell and trade with their market, with the coffee, in 3 ways. The first one is the auction in the coffee exchange. The second one is direct sales. And the third one, any such method that the cabinet secretary may prescribe. Mr. Speaker, this proposed section 46 of the Act is another emancipating section of this law. This, Mr. Speaker, is allowing the ordinary coffee farmer to be able to do direct sales. Mr. Speaker, it is a very strange arrangement where you are not able to sell your coffee. You who has planted it, you have tended to that coffee, you have bought the fertilizer, you have bought the pesticides, you have made sure that all the inputs are there, you cannot sell it the way you want. Mr. Speaker, very strange. Why? Because of the arrangement of this whole sector. It was punitive, exploitative to the common coffee farmer. Mr. Speaker, like I said, it was the same person who was posing as an agent, the same person who is posing as a miller, the same person who is posing as a buyer. So they would not want you to deal with direct sales. They don't want you to be emancipated. They don't want you to have power. They don't want you even to be rich. They just want you to be rich enough to survive, just like a cow. Give him enough so that he can get enough to live so that we can continue milking it. But they were not interested in helping the farmer. Mr. Speaker, the Kenya Kwanza administration, Mr. Speaker, is really truly committed to helping the common person. The Kenya Kwanza administration is not doing what we call cosmetic changes, things that you are going to do today, tomorrow you wipe off the thing and it's gone. Today you are looking nice, tomorrow it's gone. This, Mr. Speaker, is a fundamental change. It's not just policy. It has shifted from policy, Mr. Speaker. It has gone to law. And we are asking every senator, Mr. Speaker, to support this movement so that the local mwananchi, Mr. Speaker, the local person who has put in all the energy in the growing of coffee can actually benefit from the labors of his work. Mr. Speaker, there are very stringent requirements in terms of allowing for movement of coffee from one place to another. Mr. Speaker, we have had people who are just plain thieves. They wait for people to do all the work and then they break in. And it was all over in the media, Mr. Speaker, at some point, where farmers used to just wake up and they say, the coffee factory has been raided and we have lost this amount of bags. Mr. Speaker, under this arrangement now, it's going to be very difficult because there's a tracing capacity that is created so that you don't just walk in with coffee from anywhere to sell. You have to explain its origins. Mr. Speaker, what I would want to propose to this committee, and they need to look at it, that they have said that any person who contravenes the provisions, and this, Mr. Speaker, I'm looking at the provisions that require that a person who is a buyer cannot be a miller, a person who is a miller cannot be a broker or an agent. They have provided for a very small punishment, Mr. Speaker, for contravention of those provisions. Because what they have said is that this person will be contravening the law, and he will be subject to a fine not exceeding 1 million shillings or twice the value of the coffee or coffee product, whichever is greater, or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years or both. Mr. Speaker, 1 million shillings fine for a person who is doing a business that will give him 50 million, it will give him 80 million, it will give him 20 million by seeking that contravention. Mr. Speaker, 1 million shillings is not enough. I was going to propose to the chairman that they would consider enhancing this penalty to at least 5 million shillings. The issue of jailing them for 2 years, that is okay. But they must enhance so that we can start streamlining the coffee industry, Mr. Speaker, for it to be productive to the normal person who produces this product. Mr. Speaker, it is important for us to realize that for us to remain competitive in the international market, research must be there. So I'm very happy that they have set up the Coffee Research Institute. Mr. Speaker, I was listening carefully to the mover, the chairman of Agriculture Committee, and he was saying that when they went to Colombia, they were able to visit the Research Institute where they have developed over 400 varieties, Mr. Speaker. Some of the varieties in Colombia, Mr. Speaker, they can even make the coffee to grow to the height so that you are able to pick at the height that is comfortable for you. That is the kind of innovation, Mr. Speaker. That is the kind of research, Mr. Speaker, that we are talking about. And we would like to support this research initiative that has been put there, Mr. Speaker, so that we can continue to develop our industry, make it productive, make it resistant to any insect infestation, and make it be able to be competitive when it comes to getting the proper kind of pricing that it requires. Mr. Speaker, finally, the way they have made financial provisions for this bill, and that's why I say it is well thought out, is that the proposed Article 59, Mr. Speaker, actually produces what we are calling the Coffee Development Levy. And this one automatically, Mr. Speaker, 0.5% is going to the county, which is a very good thing, Mr. Speaker. A lot of times, as senators, we forget that our business here is to protect and to help counties to grow. Mr. Speaker, it will be very wrong if a county produces a lot of coffee and then it gains nothing from everything it is doing there. And Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that 0.5% of this coffee development levy has been given to coffee producing counties. And Mr. Speaker, also, they have given 1% to the institute, Mr. Speaker. I see my time is going, Mr. Speaker, but I want to finalize my submissions here by urging all members who will speak to this bill to support it, Mr. Speaker, especially to realize that we have attached the agenda for change as a Kenya Kwanza government to actual legislative work so that we are not just talking. We mean business, we mean transformation of this country, we mean to help our people to grow. And even after the exit of our president, we will still have the legacy of having changed the coffee industry for the better for the rest of our foreseeable future. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I fully support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Mungatana. We now have Senator Kibwana Ali Hamida.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I'll just be short and precise, Mr. Speaker, on this bill. I support it fully, and the bill has come timely, Mr. Speaker. I realized, the coffee farmers or the coffee industry had a lot of